Good morning, Digit fam. Adam Doud here, back behind the mic and getting back into the swing of things. I'll be honest, it took me a while to remember just how I do this thing I do. I mean, a week and a half doesn't seem like a long time, but believe me, it's a long time. But here I am, and here you are, and here we are, so let's just get right to it. It is January 2nd, 2020, and this is your Digit Daily. As we kick off this new year, which unfortunately did not start with Barbara Walters, and a new decade, we look at how things are very different than they were 10 years ago, and you'd be hard-pressed to find a bigger shift than in the music industry. The RIAA, which, fun fact, I had to click on no less than 4 links to find out that RIAA stands for Recording Industry Association of America, so there's a branding problem. But anyway, the RIAA posted some numbers earlier this week, which shows just what the heck is going on. Consider first that in 2010, about 35% of people in the US had smartphones, compared to 80% today. Now, what exactly is considered a person is up for grabs. Adults, teens, left-handed social workers? The RIAA doesn't say, but suffice it to say, there are a ton of smartphones out there now. So let's look at the musical numbers. Back in 2010, streaming accounts for just 7% of music listening. Today, 80%. Digital downloads made up a respectable 35% in 2010. Today, down to 9%. Owning actual physical discs went from 52% down to 9 measly percents. And I'm not surprised by this. The car radio I just had installed has a USB port and a line in, but no CD player, which is fine. I haven't listened to a CD in a car since before Obama. Of course, a lot of this has to do with the proliferation of Wi-Fi and unlimited data, but the unintended, or maybe intended effect of this, depending on how bitter you are towards rich people, is that artists aren't getting the same return out of physical media. Spotify pays out a hefty $0.006 to $0.0084 per play. For those who don't feel like doing the math, that's less than 1 penny per play. Ever wonder why concerts cost $60 these days? Wonder no more! Though it should be mentioned that even back in the days of physical media, touring brought in a lot more money than record sales. But this also leads to a shortening of songs, but whether that's just because of streaming or because of shortened attention spans... What was I saying? Anyway, since 2013, the average length of a song on Billboard's Hot 100 fell from 3 minutes 50 seconds to just 3 minutes 30 seconds. That's not an accident. Shorter songs means more plays. But apparently, a new method for listening to music also means we get to fudge the rules for how those songs are ranked. In 2019, the number 1 single in the UK was a song called River by Ellie Goulding. River is not available anywhere outside of YouTube and Amazon. No Spotify, no Apple Music. But despite the fact that songs by Mariah Carey, you know the one, and Wham were played twice as much, River was the number 1 song because the other 2 songs were more than 3 years old. It's a fairly obscure rule called accelerated decline, which basically says out with the old, in with the new, and yeah, it's kind of BS. Of course, it also helped that Amazon curated the song into Christmas lists, making it the first song played when people asked Alexa to play Christmas music. So I guess, suck it, Mariah, and your 2019 remake of your 1994 song. It's all about gaming the numbers, folks. And speaking of numbers, let's head into the Roundup! Andrew Grush at Android Authority takes a deep look at streaming services in the last decade. 2010s really did spawn the rise of streaming services and cord cutting in general, and it's funny because where we are today isn't necessarily better than we were back then. In 2010, when cable packages were still the main squeeze, people wanted to pick and choose the channels they got rather than having 80 channels of nothing to watch. Today, we do get to pick and choose our channels, but so much content is siloed into so many different services, many people just want to bundle all these streamers together into one service. Sound familiar? And it's funny how things work out, but for now, if you want to watch The Mandalorian, Stranger Things, Friends, and The Big Bang Theory, you need to subscribe to 4 different services. The more things change, the more they stay the same. Sean Hollister over at The Verge took a trip down memory lane as he let Google explain what he was thinking about 10 years ago. And I could go into details about his trip into the past, but I checked out my own Google history and it is fascinating. First of all, I pulled up directions to my own apartment 6 times on the night of January 2nd, 2010. I also apparently looked up Michael Jordan on multiple sources, including Wikipedia. Disney Playhouse was on the menu because 4-year-old, but things are also a little fuzzy because apparently my wife was also using my Google account. Either that or I became intensely interested in soap operas 10 years ago. And I admit, that's not a completely crazy idea, but I'm thinking we were probably just using the same computer. And if you want to have some fun, check out your Google history and see where your mind was in 2010. They come at night. And in this case, the they is drones, and there are lots of them flying in eastern Colorado and western Nebraska at night in what the New York Times describes as, quote, tight formations. And no one knows why, including the FAA, who is launching a full investigation. And what's interesting about this is that according to regulations by the FAA, you're not supposed to fly your drone at night, and the fact that these are in, quote, tight formations seems to suggest that there is some large governing body at work here. This isn't just 6 cowboys out with their new Mavics, unless, of course, they're starting up some kind of synchronized flying sports league or something. Personally, I'm kind of fascinated by this, and I'm curious to see what's up. But fortunately, according to resident Dawn George, they're high enough that you can't shoot them. So at least they've got that going for them. It also makes me suspect that she tried. 2020 looks to be a landmark year in Mars exploration as the US, Russia, and China are all expected to launch, and hopefully land, rovers on the Red Planet and have them operational by mid-2021. This would mark the first time that Mars was explored by multiple rovers from multiple agencies, which is exciting. No word yet on when the first Mars Demolition Derby is scheduled, but you can bet it'll be on pay-per-view, and I'm excited to see it. And finally, this is just the kind of funny story that you want to start off a new year with. A woman, in this case the writer of the story, back in the 90s, married a man named David that she really didn't know all that well. The people in her life tried to fight it, but she was in love, so what are you gonna do, right? They moved to New York, and soon after, the phone started ringing, and woman after woman after woman kept calling and asking to talk to David. Now, I'm not going to spoil the ending here, but it is delightful. So hit up the link in the show notes and read about the many women of David and just who this David guy really was. So that's going to do it for today's Digit Daily. If you'd like to learn more about any of these stories, check out the links in the show notes and subscribe to our daily newsletter on Digit.com. And if you like what you heard, subscribe, leave a review, and don't forget to tell your friends about DigitDailyPod.com. Once again, I'm Adam Doud, Dead Technology on Twitter, and we'll talk again tomorrow.